This is the cost of admission. And if you want that thing, it's going to come with costs. And this is one of those costs. You're either going to pay it or you're not. It is impossible to build toughness or resilience in a place of comfort. By the grace of God and with the help of a lot of amazing people who continue to work on me, despite literally being told that I was a lost cause, and them saying, yeah, well, we're going to continue to work anyway. And when you have someone whose back is against the wall, or when they believe they truly have nothing to lose, you are dealing with a very dangerous and capable individual.
Welcome to Operation Onward. Today we've got Army Green Beret, Purple Heart recipient, the machine himself, Mr. Nick Lavery.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having
being
me.
on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, appreciate it.
So thank you so much for sitting down with us today, man. You've been a huge inspiration to me in my life and my experience. And I really wanted to share your story with our audience and get that out to everyone so that they can have that as well. But you are the machine. And I just wanted to ask a question, like, when was there ever a time for you in your life that you weren't the machine?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. Because I've never referred to myself as the machine. None of my friends have ever referred to me as such. So it's never been a nickname for me. I'll provide a little bit of context, but that term really came to fruition on my first deployment back into Afghanistan in 2015 after being wounded. And after being there for maybe a month or two, we started going into these different villages and running operations. And it started with the kids, and they would come out and they would say, Palawan Machina, which is Dari for the machine fighter. And that was the first time that we heard that. And so places like Afghanistan, you know, word travels pretty fast. So it started to get around that there was this like cyborg dude like roaming around, you know, the country doing things. And so word started to spread. So it became kind of this running joke where we'd move into a new spot and some of the guys would be like, I wonder if we're going to hear, you know, the machine thing again. And then sure enough, it would happen. So like that just became kind of an ongoing thing. And it was just kind of funny and comical. And that's kind of where it ended. And then the next year in 2016, we were in Eastern Africa. And the same exact thing happened again. So different continent, different language, but literally like the same exact outcome. So that's when it kind of started to grow a little bit of roots, and was still just kind of a funny, you know, story. That term is something that I've since taken and run with it since then, because really the quick version is what began as a single human being being referred to as the machine. As I kind of thought more about it, I was like, well, when you think about what a machine is a series of components that when brought together and are able to work in harmony can create something magical or something powerful, like a truck engine. An engine is a thing, but it's really like a whole shitload of things that work together to make this thing as great as a tool, as an asset as it actually is. And so to me, the term machine is really synonymous with team. And that is a message that I can get behind. And that's really where we kind of built this whole brand, is around that idea. So it started as an individual and it quickly moved into a team concept, which is how you win in life, period. Yeah. Like no one truly wins self-made, at least not with any kind of consistency. Like those that win regularly do so by having great people around them. And so to answer your question, the answer is no. I was not always the machine. I grew up a very stereotypical, scared, small, believe it or not, insecure kid. I can't believe it. It's a hard thing to get your head wrapped around. I get it.
No, I was going to say, especially coming from, 5'3" me. I'm like looking at you like,
yeah, I was a peanut. I was a freakishly huge baby.
It's amazing.
And then I hit like, I don't know, 5 years old and kind of just like stopped growing for a while. And then I just shot up like crazy. So I was a very much a stereotypical scared, insecure kid, picked on, bullied. I lived in a new place every year growing up as a kid. So that was my environment. Struggled socially, struggled to make friends, struggled to keep friends. And I was desperate for confidence. I was desperate to be respected. In fact, I wanted to be feared, if I'm being honest with you guys.
Yeah.
I lived my whole young life on the other side of that spectrum in fear. Wow. And I wanted to feel like what it was like to be on the other side. And that was a huge driver really for me to eventually join the military.
Nice. What year did you join the military?
2007.
2007.
Yeah.
And how long into your military career did you, before you went to Q course, before you decided to become Army Special Forces?
I came in right off the street as a Special Forces recruit.
Okay.
So it's known as an 18 X-ray contract. So I came in, went straight to basic or OSIT, straight to airborne school, straight to brag, straight into SF prep, and then straight into selection in the Q. So my whole career has been in SF.
Okay. A lot of people watching will know you for your book, for your legacy, but I believe you're the only active duty Army Green Beret that's an amputee, right?
I don't think that's accurate.
Okay.
Because there's been a few. Well, I am considered the first Special Forces operator to return to combat as an above the knee amputee.
That's crazy.
That's incredible.
Can you? It's a powerful story, but can you share about that experience, about what led to that happening, and a bit about what it was like trying to go through the bureaucracy and the loopholes with the Army to get back to combat, to retain that status and be an active Green Beret. But can you tell us a little bit about the story of what happened to you?
So this is my third trip in Afghanistan. We went in the fall of 2012, and it was set to stretch through April of 2013. So a 6-month pump. I was wounded twice prior in that deployment on 2 separate occasions before the real boom happened. And so with about a couple weeks left, my team and I fell victim to what we refer to as a green on blue, which is a fancy term for an insider attack. So in this instance, a member of the Afghan National Police Force opened fire onto me and my team from about 30 feet away using a PKM belt-fed machine gun. And it was an ideal scenario. I mean, we're doing comms checks. We're all lumped up in this one small, tight area. And this dude was able to just mow through the group. And that was actually the initiation of a pre-planned complex ambush that we didn't know. There were about 30 or so Taliban fighters that had our compound almost entirely surrounded. So he initiated, and then they all, boom, began just raining down on us.
We're at an
pretty bad day.
You guys?
We were in Wardak,
okay, which
is known for its resilient fighters going back to like the beginning of mankind up through today. I mean, Afghanistan's a very interesting place, and different regions are very different in lifestyles and mentalities and ideologies and language. Wardak is known for its resilient fighters. Like they don't just like pop off a couple rounds and take off and run. They're there to play. Yeah. Which we knew going in. That's exactly what we wanted to go into. That's exactly where we wanted to be, doing the exact thing we wanted to do. And we got what we asked for. 12 U.S. casualties, 3 of which were killed, 1 of which was my detachment commander, Captain Andrew Peterson Keil. He was standing right next to me, took 2 rounds to his face. He was dead instantly. Most of the damage to me was to my right leg. I took about 5 or 6 rounds to it, which basically vaporized it. And by the grace of God and with the help of a lot of amazing people who continued to work on me, despite literally being told that I was a lost cause, and them saying, yeah, well, we're going to continue to work anyway, is the only reason why I'm here with you guys having this conversation. And so spent a year at Walter Reed, went through about 40 surgeries on my leg as they were battling the infection. So they were just incrementally amputating it chunk by chunk. Got that stabilized, got upright, started living life as a one-legged guy, learned how to use a prosthetic, and then went back to my unit. At the time, it was a 3rd group out of Fort Bragg. And I was offered a full medical military retirement, which is kind of getting to the crux of your question.
Yep.
I use that term loosely because the Army really they were dead set on forcing me into civilian life. And so I found myself in this, ended up being about an 8-month administrative street fight with the United States Army to stay on active duty. I was working as an instructor during that time period. I was teaching combatives and CQB with the unit. And I was just I was in an admin battle, man. And so, it's a difficult road to navigate, especially when you grow up as a soldier and you're told, like, when you get an order, like, your response is roger that and execute. And so I had to defy that on more than a few occasions. I like to use the term temporarily burn some bridges.
Yeah.
Because I was in a position where it was like, what do I have to lose? Really? Like, I'm dead set on staying in this lifestyle, and you seem dead set on getting me out of it. So what do I have to lose? And when you have someone whose back is against the wall, or when they believe they truly have nothing to lose, you are dealing with a very dangerous and capable individual. And that's where I was at.
How long, when obviously the accident happened, your healings, how long until you actually went back
onto
like
full,
fully,
to full duty?
Yeah, it was almost exactly 2 years.
Wow.
So injury was March of 2013. I was back in Afghanistan in July of 2015.
That's incredible.
Which is a real short window. I mean, a year of that was at Walter Reed, just like figuring out how to just like live, like put my clothes on, and, like take a shower.
Completely lifestyle change. Yeah.
And then I had basically about 12-ish months back at Bragg, working with our coaches and our dietitians and our physical therapists and all of our units' assets. And that's when I really began pushing towards that type of, operation.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I'm a disabled veteran myself, and we were talking about this a little bit before. Your story has always been a huge inspiration to me, because I was med boarded out, right? And it was a time when I wasn't done, but the military was done with me. And that's an emotional kind of roller coaster to go through. But for years after the military, being a disabled veteran, not being where I wanted to be, but being a disabled veteran, it felt like it defined me. And your story has always been a huge inspiration to me, because it's like, no, this doesn't have to define you. You can grow past this. You can push past this. You can achieve what you want to achieve. I kind of want to talk about that inspiration and the message that you have for the military community, for the disabled veteran community. How did you just build yourself into this powerhouse, man?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a few things come to mind. I mean, if I go kind of in chronological order, from the time I was in the intensive care unit, literally in critical condition, the only real memories I have of that point in time is me knowing I was going to go back to doing what I do. That was it. Like this vision, this mission was just crystal clear. And so I relied heavily on that for a long time. And like, that's what I would grasp onto in those moments of struggle and setbacks and frustration and failure and self-doubt. And like, I'm not immune to any of those things. I'm a human being, the same as all of us in this room right now. So like, whether I'm literally or figuratively face down on the ground, like that's the moment. You got like 5 or 6 seconds to play that game. Like, how do you want to play it? We all want things in life. It's money, a job, a relationship, or like a whatever. We all want things, but to make that thing a reality is going to come with some serious costs. And the scale of the goal is going to determine the scale of the costs and the sacrifices. It's a pretty basic concept to get behind. So like in those moments of fear and failure and frustration, I was able to just say like, this is, here you are. This is the time. If you want to make that real, right now is the time where you got to put your money where your mouth is. And just this mantra that I had that I still use today. It's actually literally written on a whiteboard in my closet right now at my house, which is where I like assemble myself, for the day. And it just says, this is the cost of admission. And if you want that thing, it's going to come with costs. And this is one of those costs. You're either going to pay it or you're not. And that's not to say me or anyone else is going to bat 1,000. Like you're going to succumb to those challenges at times. You're going to hit the snooze button. You're going to have the slice of pizza. You're going to, take the day off from the gym. Like no one's batting 1,000. We're not talking about perfection, but we're talking about choosing the hard right over the easy wrong more often than not. And I think if you can just operationalize that and increase that scale, then you can make anything a reality. So a short answer is I was obsessed with turning that vision into reality. I use that word very deliberately. I talk about it in my book, like what a 24-hour period of my life looked like during this window. People will look at that and be like, this dude's like out of his mind. It's like, that would probably be like a fair response to that, because every minute of every day, every single task was all correlated to that one outcome. That was it. I didn't do it. Nothing else mattered to me. And I want to be very clear, because at this point in life, I didn't have the wife I have today. I didn't have the 2 amazing kids I have today. And I barely made it back to the teams, like barely. There were some assessments where I passed by like a second or two. And so I barely made that. Well, there are things in my life now that are completely non-negotiable, particularly as it pertains to my family. These are non-negotiables.
Right.
And so if I had the family I have now back then, while I live in the world of what's possible, I don't think that it would have come to fruition, because I would have been unwilling to make some of those additional sacrifices that I was able to make then. And yet I still barely made it back. So I say that because I don't want people tend to look at that time with me and think, well, man, like if he did it, I can do it, which is a great thing to have happen. I also just want to be very realistic that we all have obligations and responsibilities and requirements. And it's easier to read something and get all fired up for a minute or two. And then reality sets in and you're like, how do I do it? How do I manage it all? And it's like, well, you're going to have to make some really hard choices on what matters to you most, rack and stack those priorities, and be willing to eat the costs of the things that you're willing to give up.
That's awesome advice, man. So your book, you got a book out, and everyone should check it out. But I was just going to see if you could maybe share with our audience, what's the message of your book, and maybe a story from your book as well.
The book's titled Objective Secure. One of my probably most favorite pieces of, I'll call it negative criticism, is people want the autobiography, or people think they're getting an autobiography. No matter the subtitle, what's on the back of the book, how I talk about the book, people are like, oh, I want to hear like the Nick Lavery story of like him as a kid in Boston and growing up and and like this like life story. It's not what that is. I've yet to be inspired to put anything like that on paper. Objective Secure is the methodology and the approach I took to get back onto the teams once I was wounded. It also happens to be the methodology, tactics, tools, and approach that I use today, just living my life in general. And I find myself using those frameworks even more so as a husband, as a father, as an entrepreneur, maybe more than I do as an active duty soldier. And so like these themes exist across all spectrums of life, all verticals of life, regardless of what you do for a living or your hobbies or your circumstances. Like these are just undeniable themes. So there's nothing revolutionary that's going on inside that text. It's just my vantage point, my opinion of these things. What is discipline? What is the importance of consistency and work ethic and sacrifice and surrounding yourself with great people? And then sharing enough kind of an insight vignette about where this impacted me and how I was able to leverage this particular ethos, to enable my, success and growth. One of the funnier stories in the book, as you asked, is I was at Walter Reed in 2013. Walter Reed was packed. I mean, business was booming, and a lot of that comes with a lot of hard trauma, but it was jammed. And so you had on any given day that celebrities and sports organizations and the president and generals and movie stars, like people would come through there to show their support to wounded service members, which is a great thing. I was there for one thing and one thing only. It was all business for me. I didn't care who was there to see me or visit me or whatever. And it was a little further down the line in my recovery, and I was upright and I was training. I was in the indoor gym called the Matsy at Walter Reed. And I was doing this like weighted carry movement around this indoor track. And the New York Yankees showed up, which is ironic because I'm from Boston. People automatically assume that I hate the Yankees or I hate New York or anyone from New York, which is totally not true. New York's a great place, one of my favorite cities. I actually love the Yankees because as a Red Sox fan, we get to experience the greatest sports rivalry ever because I'm from Boston. That's a beautiful thing. So I have nothing against anybody. I do find it funny, however, when someone that's never been to New York once in their life, they're from some podunk town in South Dakota, decked out in Yankee gear, telling me to go F myself because I'm from Boston. I'm like, bro, you don't even know.
You got no skin in this game.
All good, no problem. It's all good. But the Yankees are there. And long story short, I have this epic wipeout. My leg came detached. I hit the ground. I knocked over this rack of med balls that go blasting through the gym. And everybody stops what they're doing because there's this massive one-legged guy who just totally ate shit. Total yard sale on the ground. And Yankees are looking, everyone stops, whatever. And everyone kind of looks at my physical therapist. His name is Kelly. And Kelly doesn't flinch. Okay. And Kelly's this very petite, small, blonde, beautiful girl. Also has like a sinister side to her as well, right?
I
Like
feel like all physical therapists
Dr.
have
Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing.
All physical therapists have a sinister
Just
side,
carnage when she needed to, merciless. And so people kind of look to her to see how they are supposed to respond to this. And Kelly doesn't move. She's just sitting there staring at me, which I know is going to happen. So I like get myself up and like get my shit together and reattach my leg. It takes me like 3 or 4 minutes. Walk over to her and she's like, what just happened there? And I was like, I think I didn't swing through enough. My foot hit the ground. She's like, yep, okay, that probably sounds about right. And I go pick up all the shit you knocked over, put it back, and then like get back to training. And so it's just an ironic moment where the Yankees are in town and I create this like massive scene. And but it was business as usual, man. And so like that was my approach when I was there. It was purely based on the work I needed to do because I had a goal that I needed to achieve.
That's awesome. Good story, man. You have so not only are you still an active duty Green Beret, but you're also an entrepreneur and you have a business and a successful business. And can you tell our audience a bit about, your company and what you're doing and how they can get involved?
Yeah. So we actually have a few companies. It's crazy how what is still very much a passion project for me, because my primary professional obligation is to that of
the Army,
being a United States soldier. So this still very much is a kind of a nights and weekends side hustle passion project. It is wild how fast and to what degree it's grown, and that's the result of one metric alone, and just the number of amazing people who have had the courage and somewhat enough crazy in them to get on this roller coaster ride with me. Because you got to be at least a little batshit crazy to get into the entrepreneur world, or to stay in it, because it's just so brutally hard. The statistics are so against you. You got to have a little crazy. And I've been surrounded by people that have the right amount of crazy that have enabled this to continue to take off and do the things that we're doing, with most of my professional bandwidth being as a soldier. I'd say our kind of my flagship company, is Precision Components. It's a B2B service provider. So we do executive coaching, keynote speaking, training workshops, breakout sessions, some business consulting. And so that's been really enjoyable for me as an on the ground asset, to be one of the many that we have that can actually go work with an organization and take what I've learned in the military and in special forces and translate that in a way that it can be understood and then used regardless of what world I'm working in, whether it's in corporate or professional sports or law enforcement or a youth program. That to me may be one of the more enjoyable elements of it, is taking this visceral and kind of these acronyms and, op tempo. And people are like, oh, what the hell's op tempo? I'm like, let me tell you a little bit about op tempo, and like diluting that into a way where it's like, oh, I get that. Here's how I can operationalize that for me. Is really fulfilling for myself. One of the challenges I have now in business is, I say having to, but really I get to a world as we continue to onboard more instructors and speakers and other operations assets. Like, these people are enabled to go out and impact organizations all across the country, which they're doing literally right now. So as much as I love the down and in and looking, into the eyes of a CEO of a Fortune 500 company and being like, hey man, like here's the game plan. And then seeing that person do that and then seeing the result is awesome. It's a great problem to have, where I get to kind of be moving myself more into working on the business versus working in the business. It's just a really difficult transition when you love the down and in as much as I do.
Yeah. And almost having to like trust, like take your hands off of it and trust other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, entrepreneurship, I feel like you've pretty much beat the statistics in everything at this point. So I don't see you ever not being successful, man. But if there are companies out there that want to bring you in to do, executive coaching, keynote speaking, character and leadership training, how do they find you, man? How do they get a hold of you? And what does that process look like? Just kind of share with the audience, like, how do we find Nick? How do we get him to come in and change the culture at our company?
Yeah. PrecisionComponentsLLC.com is the website. That's the quick and easy spot to go. We've got such an amazing operations team now that continues to grow, and just being able to watch and help enable them to grow into the full-time professional assets that they are. A few of them are here with me, today, has been just surreal and humbling to be a part of that team internal wise. As fulfilling as it is to go out and work with an organization for a day or for 6 months or 12 months and see those effects come to fruition is an amazing thing. Seeing the growth of the team we have internal definitely competes with that for me personally.
We'll include all that in our captions too. One thing actually I wanted to ask before we wrap it up here, and I loved how you brought it up in the beginning, when you said when you were growing up, how you were small and kind of timid and, just so different than what you are now.
Yeah.
What would you say for, like, obviously audience that are watching, even for like the younger generation, or even like you, Nick, how you've been inspired with your own personal story, like men and women out there that maybe are going through something similar or anything, like what would you say to them that maybe are feeling some of that timidness or smallness, and, just sort of some type of inspiration on kind of your story, what you went through?
Great question. One of my favorite elements of what I get to do now is work or communicate to younger people. I mean, that's kind of an important place to invest.
Very
They're like
important.
literally our future. It's also really challenging, which I also love about it. And like the difference between talking to a 10-year-old versus a 12-year-old is like night and day, right? 12 versus 16, night and day. So you really got to know your target audience when you work with young people. And so casting kind of a wide net here per your question, recognizing that this may go in one ear and out the other for some, but I think it has a chance to stick for at least one, is when you're in it and you're in the grind and you're getting your ass kicked and it seems like the world is crashing down around you and dogs and cats are living together and mass hysteria, like my life is over, I'm never going to recover from this. And we've all been there. I've been there. We've all been there. It's really hard to see the value of that moment when you're in the moment. Hindsight is 2020. You can look back retrospectively and be like, you know what? I am who I am today. And that was a huge part of it. It was 10 years ago. You can make those correlations later through analysis, prayer, reflection. But when you're in it, it's really difficult to see that for the value that it is. And so I know that, but I would still just like to remind particularly young people that this phase will end. And you are going to be better off because you went through it. It is impossible to build toughness or resilience in a place of comfort. Literally impossible.
There has to be a struggle. There has to be,
Resilience is iron sharpens iron. Like that is it. Like discomfort is what forges mental and physical toughness. You have to go through hard times. And if you are absent of that over the long term, the person who's had their ass kicked repeatedly. Now there's a threshold for sure, but the person who's experienced discomfort versus the one that has not is going to be positioned to dominate life, because you can only learn those lessons one way and one way only. So
true.
At least be willing to entertain the importance of the pain you're going through right now is going to pay dividends in years to come. And then the second point I'll make quickly is the importance of integrity. Now, those of us in the military, we throw integrity around all the time. It's like a buzzword. You almost like forget what it even means. We say it so often. So, doing the right thing regardless of who's watching is like an easy definition of it. An easy concept to get your head wrapped around. Yeah, cool. I'm going to be a good person. Okay, great. When you're in it, just like when you're losing, it's also really hard to do, especially as young people and as vulnerable as we are, and trying to fit in and be social and kind of chameleon myself into this social group because I want to be accepted by a group and I don't want to be alone and and I'm insecure, all these things that all young people go through. Is if you are willing to do whatever it takes by any righteous means necessary, which is how I would define the word commitment, because whatever it takes is a very slippery slope. If you're going to do whatever it takes, like how long until you're breaking some laws or some ethics or some morals, or like whatever it takes means whatever it takes. And so those last words are very important. Whatever it takes by any righteous means necessary. That means you're gonna have that tenacity, but you're gonna also couple it with integrity. And both of those things are non-negotiable and they work hand in hand. Should you choose to go down that road, it is going to be harder to win because most people are gonna just do whatever it takes to get the outcome they want. It's going to be more difficult, but I would argue that it will make that victory that much more worthwhile.
Absolutely. I love that. That's
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
For any age, I feel like that could just resonate with what you're saying. So, but that's powerful. Yeah.
And that's a huge, man, like the next generation is where there's such a disconnect with where I was at, you know, cause like I was early, you know, global war on terrorism, you know, 2003, that time frame. And, it's just like a different generation, but, the character, it matters, you know, and like that's to have people like yourself and, you know, other veteran foundations like the Travis Manion Foundation doing character does matter. And, we have to instill character in our next generation. And what better way to do that than when like your story and the story of other people that have gone through struggles. So
these are undeniable themes, man. Technology is going to continue to evolve. We're going to continue to evolve. Things are going to get faster and more efficient, and you're not slowing down that train. In fact, it's only going to speed up faster. But in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what the widget is. These are undeniable themes of human performance, period. And they're rooted in character. We're talking about humility, discipline, compassion, empathy, patience. The sooner you can start learning those skills, you can still take the same widget that the person next to you is using, and you're going to be more effective with that tool. You're going to be more lethal with that tool. When you are in the combatives world or the hand-to-hand combat world, which I've been in since I was a kid, the human is the weapon. My job is to train the human. Anything I put inside your hands, whether that's a knife or a bat or a pistol or a rifle or a sniper rifle or a mortar, all that does is increase the range of your lethality. It just increases your ability to reach out and touch somebody from a further distance. But you are the weapon. Our job, in my opinion, and I've taken on this as my part of my role, is to train the weapon, is to train the human. And that's done at the core. And it really starts and ends with the individual's character.
That's awesome. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. For the audience out there, check out Nick, follow Nick. He's been a huge inspiration for me. He's a huge inspiration for the military and the veteran community out there. And I think that his message, your message, it's so empowering for executive teams, for companies, for the veteran community. Thank you for sitting down with us and sharing a bit about that, man.
Thanks so
and,
much.
I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes.